Beneath the waves, something ancient stirs. These are the stories the ocean never meant to surface. Welcome to Deep Sea Narratives, where the deep holds all secrets. There's a silence that only the deep sea knows. That silence is alive, and it listens. Emma Calloway had spent most of her adult life researching ocean acoustics, mapping whale migrations, analyzing pressure zones, decoding the endless chatter of the sea. But nothing prepared her for the Kelmor Trench. The Driftwing, a privately funded research vessel, had been anchored off the coast of southern Alaska for nearly 2 weeks. Aboard it, Emma and a small team were tasked with investigating an anomaly, a repeating sonar signal detected at impossible depths. Faint, rhythmic, and eerily symmetrical. Officially, it was an unexplained underwater acoustic disturbance. Unofficially, even the onboard technicians had started calling it the hum. The first time Emma heard it, it was through bone conduction headphones. The moment it reached her ears, her skin prickled, not from volume, but from familiarity. It was deep, layered, pulsing at 0.4 hertz, far below human hearing, yet somehow perceptible. It didn't sound mechanical or natural. It sounded intentional, and worse, it felt like it was watching her. Emma stood on the aft deck late one night, leaning on the railing as moonlight shimmered across the Black Sea. There was no wind, no motion. Even the water was unnaturally still. She stared into it, unblinking. "It's too calm," she muttered. Behind her, the crew had long since turned in. Just a few dim lights remained on in the galley. Somewhere below, the generators purred, but faintly, almost as if they were holding their breath too. 12 days at sea, and the quiet was only getting louder. That night, she didn't sleep. At 2:47 a.m., Emma sat alone in the sonar lab. Blue light from the monitors bathed the room in a sterile glow. Her coffee had gone cold. Waveforms crawled across the screen, each one cataloged, timestamp filed. But then one appeared that made her blood chill. A long, sharp spike, tapered at both ends. It repeated every 41 seconds. She ran it through software, stripped out the ocean noise, filtered the hydrothermal bursts, and what remained was breath. Emma froze. It was the same sound she'd been dreaming of for days. In her sleep, she'd felt it echo through corridors of cold water, like a heartbeat deep in the trench. But that wasn't all. She stretched the waveform again, and beneath the breath, she found something stranger, singing, faint, mournful. Not a song made by vocal cords, but by pressure and tone, like someone was trying to hum through the entire ocean. When she played it back, the ship's lights flickered, just once, like the sea was answering. That night, her dreams changed. She stood underwater, impossibly deep, but not drowning. A pale blue light shimmered above her, but she wasn't swimming toward it. She was being pulled, gently, slowly, downward. Around her drifted figures, long and graceful, like jellyfish sculpted into human shapes. They watched her, moved with her. Then came the hands, dozens of them, pale, cold, webbed. They reached out, not to harm, but to welcome. When she woke, she was gasping, soaked in sweat. Or not sweat. Her sheets were wet, salty, and on the porthole above her bunk, a streak of condensation had formed. 4 long streaks, finger width, dragged downward from the inside. 2 days later, the dive began. The Hydra II was a tight submersible built for ultra-deep exploration. Emma had insisted on joining, despite protests from Corbin, the mission director. "I need to be there," she said. "The signal, it's not just data, it's calling." She descended with Reyes, the sub-pilot, and Dr. Hahn, a marine geologist. The capsule hissed shut, bolts sealed, lights dimmed, then they dropped. At 500 meters, the light from the surface faded. Emma stared through the thick dome of glass at the void outside. Faint specks glowed, tiny plankton drifting in a vast, indifferent blackness. At 1,200 meters, everything stopped glowing. Now, there was only the sub's headlamps, and the hum, It began as a distant vibration. The hydrophones picked it up first, an ultra-low frequency wave that grew stronger as they descended. Instruments began to glitch. Pressure readings fluctuated. Emma stared at the monitor. The hum was pulsing, layered now with other patterns. Multiple sources, multiple voices. At 2,100 meters, something began mimicking the sonar pings. Not reflecting, mimicking, like the trench itself had started to answer back. Reyes frowned. That's not an echo. That's a return signal. Han's voice cracked. It's communicating. Then they saw it. The trench wall was smoother here, scoured clean as sediment, as if something massive had scraped its way along it. Nestled in the side was a round cave, perfectly shaped as if bored by heat or pressure. From inside the cave came a glow. Soft, red, rhythmic, bioluminescence. Han whispered. No, Emma murmured. It's blinking. Then the glow blinked out and blinked on again. Steady, measured, a signal. As they inched closer, the sub's lights flickered again. The hum grew louder, vibrating the steel hull. It wasn't just a sound now. It was a feeling like something pressing gently against the outside of their minds. Then sonar screamed. The sub lurched. Something had grabbed it. Not with claws, with mass. Like a hand made of water and shadow. They were lifted, spun, set down again. All power went dead. In that pitch black, something moved. They couldn't see it, only feel it, shifting water, pressure waves, small taps against the hull. Then a slow, drawn-out scrape. It dragged along the viewport like a finger across glass. Then came the voice, not through speakers, through the walls, through their bones. It wasn't a voice made of words. It was made of vibration, pitch, and pressure. But it spoke. And they all heard the same thing. Return what was taken. Emma's breath caught. She didn't know what it meant, but something inside her stirred. A memory she didn't have. A loss she didn't remember. Then the world went white, and she remembered nothing. Emma came to with a jolt. The interior of the Hydra II was dim. Emergency lights flickered red. Reyes was slumped in his seat, groaning. Dr. Han had a thin cut above his brow, dazed but alive. They were on the surface. The mission clock showed they'd been down for 4 hours. But Emma's last memory was of the trench. The voice. There was no ascent log, no pressure data, just a time-stamped gap. Exactly 7 minutes of missing data. The external cameras were fried. The dive log corrupted, but the hull told its own story. On the outer shell, etched into the titanium in sweeping, deliberate patterns, were symbols, circles, lines, and spirals arranged in concentric waves. Not random, not scratches. Language. The crew of the Driftwing welcomed them back with visible relief, then confusion. None of them had seen the sub-ascent. There had been no beacon, no signal. Emma didn't say much. She took the only salvageable audio file and returned to her cabin. The recording was barely 5 seconds long. The hum, the breath, and then, right at the end, a gasp. Wet, ragged, not from a crew, from something else. Like a voice had broken through the water after centuries and wasn't pleased with what it saw. Emma left the expedition 2 days later. She didn't explain why. She simply packed, quietly thanked the crew, and flew inland. Far inland. A cabin in the Rockies, surrounded by pine and stone. No rivers, no lakes, but the sea followed her. It started subtly. Her bathtub would fill on its own, not to the brim, but enough to cover the drain, and always with salt water. Her kitchen sink gurgled, even when the faucet was off. Her dreams became clearer. Every night, she stood on the edge of the trench again, not in a sub, but barefoot, on stone that pulsed like flesh. Below her, something breathed in sync with the tide, and it whispered, "You brought it with you." Neighbors began to notice things. The old man down the road heard singing in his plumbing. A hunter's dog refused to drink from its water bowl after a storm. A local farmer found his well water turned dark blue, thick and briny. It killed his crops. Emma stopped answering the door, stopped going to town. She spent her nights listening, capturing the hum with makeshift hydrophones lowered into a stream behind her property. The readings were inconclusive, but the patterns? They spell names. Not hers. Others. Some she recognized from crew logs. Others she'd never heard before. Emma became obsessed with the Cressida. It was a British vessel that had gone down in 1923, an unauthorized salvage mission seeking artifact from a chain of uncharted Pacific islands. According to naval records, it had disappeared near what would become known as the Kelmor Trench. What they were retrieving, no one could say for sure. The logs were redacted. But one detail emerged from a declassified sonar map. The Anomaly had appeared days after the Cressida's last transmission. Something had been pulled from the deep, and something else had awoken. She found references in archived oral histories. Southeast Asian fishing families who spoke of the bound one, a thing buried beneath the waves to contain its sorrow. Not a god, not a beast, a memory sealed in stone. Emma became convinced that the Cressida had stolen that stone, that it had been lost again, perhaps buried or shattered in the wreck. And the trench? It had been whispering ever since, waiting for someone to listen. Emma started recording the hum every night. The tones shifted slightly, subtly, sometimes in pitch, sometimes in timing, but always with pattern. She posted the signal online under an anonymous handle. Within a week, marine enthusiasts began emailing her. They'd heard the same hum on their boat radios, in reef recordings, even in baby monitors near the coast. One man, a retired diver from Nova Scotia, sent a message with no subject line. It read, "I heard the song in 1981. I haven't slept right since. My bathtub fills too." Emma stopped fighting it. She gave in. She placed waterproof speakers in the stream near her cabin and played back the hum in a loop for hours at a time. The forest grew quiet. Birdsong stopped. Frogs vanished. And once, in the early morning fog, she saw something rise briefly from the stream. Pale, featureless, human-shaped, but boneless, like it was sculpted from water. It didn't move toward her. It only stood, listening. Then it dissolved. Now, Emma barely sleeps. She doesn't need to. She dreams with her eyes open. She maps the patterns on her walls, charts with strings and pins. She uses sound instead of symbols. When played as tones, the signals form melodies, discordant, haunting, beautiful. The stone that once bound the sea's voice is gone. So now the sea sings freely. She hears in the rain, in pipes, in static. She no longer flinches when the water creeps into her home at night. She welcomes it, because Emma knows one thing. The sea remembers, and it has chosen her to remind the world. They say people have started hearing things again. Deep-sea fishing crews lose time. Divers resurface with blank stares and bleeding ears. A baby monitor in Oregon picked up a voice humming to the child. Not a human voice, but rhythmic, ancient. And on certain nights across the world, you might wake in the dark to the sound of your faucet dripping. But not water. Salt. And if you listen closely, you might hear it too. That soft, pulsing hum, calling you by name. The tides have stilled, and tonight's tale drifts into silence, but the deep is never quiet for long. If this story stirred something beneath the surface, like subscribe and return to the depths, where every ripple hides a secret and every current carries a forgotten truth. This is Deep Sea Narratives. Thanks for watching.